One of our newer elements of our meeting is a regular update on the latest news and the status of the downtown recovery efforts. Here is President and CEO John Scholes for another DSA Minute. John, the podium's yours.
Thanks, Jeff, and good afternoon, everybody. I really appreciated your commitment, concern, and partnership around restoring and renewing our great downtown. I think, like me, you believe that downtowns are critical to advancing our social, cultural, environmental, economic values as a city and region, and that every great city and every healthy region has to have a healthy, thriving downtown. And we are focused now on recovery, on renewal, on the tough work ahead of us to bring that vibrancy and energy back to our downtown. We look forward and are positive and optimistic about certainly the vaccine news this week from Johnson & Johnson and the increased pace of vaccination, particularly in our own state of Washington here, that now we're vaccinating about 50,000 people a day, up from 25,000 just a few weeks ago. So that gives us a lot of hope and optimism. But we also sit here, at this 1 year mark of the pandemic, reflecting, as Father Sundberg did, on the significant loss and devastation across our country and community. The 500,000 lives lost, more than 300 in the city of Seattle, 1,400 in King County, and the lives that have been deeply impacted. And those in our community and the marginalized communities that have borne the brunt of this pandemic, both the health impacts and the economic impacts. We have no small task ahead of us in restoring life and vitality to our downtown. This will not be a multi-month recovery. It will be a multi-year recovery. I think we have to accept that reality. I'm co-chairing now a downtown revitalization work group with Pamela Banks, the recovery director that Mayor Durkin hired, who formerly served on the board of the Downtown Seattle Association, led the Urban League, worked within city government. So we are co-leading a group of around 32 or so folks in business, arts, culture, downtown residents, other civic and nonprofit leaders, focused on 4 key areas: how to return folks safely and address the safety and chronic homelessness challenges we have on the street, how to bring office workers back, how to reinvigorate our arts, culture, and retail and restaurant communities that have really been hard hit by by the restrictions of the pandemic, and how to bring patrons and office workers back. We'll be meeting every other week through July. We're focused on what can we do within the immediate term, sort of pre-widespread vaccine. What can we do in the near term once most of the adult population has been vaccinated in our community? And then what are the longer term structural changes that need to occur in downtown so that we can not only return the level of vibrancy that we're so used to, but also rebuild better and ensure that it's a place where everybody feels like they belong and that they have opportunity. So I look forward to continuing to update you on that work as it proceeds, and am pleased to have the great privilege of co-leading that group with Pamela Banks. So thanks to you all for your continued partnership and support of downtown. And thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, John. And change is constant. It applies to our club as well. And I just want to give everyone a friendly reminder that we are working through the Member Retention Committee to update our engagement with new members. The program formerly called as KEEKS is being updated, and we've got a contest going. And so if you haven't had a chance yet and you are a creative type, please send your suggestion for the new name for our new member orientation program to our VP of Member Engagement, Vicki Oxley. All right, now I'm pleased to welcome to the podium Seattle 4 member Bill Marshall. Bill is the co-chair of the Business Mentors Committee, and he's here to introduce the Business Mentor Showcase program for today. I've been a business mentor in the past. I've had to hang up my spurs for this current cycle, but I'm looking forward to participating again. Bill, if you please.
Thanks, President Jeff. We look forward to having you back on the committee. We're going to hold you to that. Terry Van Ostrand and I are co-chairs of the Business Mentors Committee, and we're excited that all of you can join us today for our Business Mentor Showcase. We have a great program planned, and we're going to talk about the impact of the pandemic on small businesses in Seattle. But before we do, I'd like to thank all the Rotary Business Mentors, the business owners, the students, and the advisors for all of the hard work they're doing during these very difficult times. The long program will be a panel discussion and will include a business owner, a Rotary Business Mentor, and a student. That panel will be moderated by Will Tutall. Will is the Senior Associate Director of the UW Consulting and Business Development Center and part-time lecturer in marketing. The short program will be presented by Michael Verschow. Michael is the national lead for Ascend, and he's going to talk about that program. It's the nation's largest ecosystem network focused on the growth of businesses owned by people of color, women, and veterans. Michael is also the founding director of the University of Washington's Consulting and Business Development Center and a lecturer in the marketing department at the Michael G. Foster School of Business. Please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Michael Verschow and Will Tutall.
Thanks, Bill. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, President Jeff, for being a mentor in the past and for committing to being a mentor in the future. Really appreciate it. So this marks the 25th year that we've had a partnership between the University of Washington Foster School of Business and the Seattle Rotary Club in the work to grow businesses owned by people of color, women, other underserved businesses across the state of Washington. What I'm going to be able to do today is to talk about how what started here in Seattle is now having an impact across the country. The very first program that we started, you'll hear about a little bit later in the longer program, our student consulting program that we work with Seattle Rotary on. But we've taken the lessons that we've learned from there, combined them with academic research, and built out, as Bill said, this Ascend network. So I'm going to share a few slides here, and hopefully this will all work like it should. Right, and we're going to be joined today by some of our partners in Los Angeles and Phoenix as well to hear about, again, how the work that we began with Seattle Rotary is beginning to influence work across the country. So I want to talk a little bit about where we are with people of color owned businesses, right? So between 2002 and 2016, so these are US Census Bureau data, right? So the most recent data available was 2016. We're looking at small businesses here, right? Small businesses, so which we're defining for this slide as businesses that are not publicly traded, okay? And we see that between 2002 and 2016, overall, small businesses, which account for 47% of the private sector workforce in this country, the employment there grew. But when we drill down, white-owned small businesses actually lost employees. And so the net growth of employment for small businesses is because of people of color-owned businesses in this country. And that's true regardless of the race, ethnicity, gender of the owner, right? So we look at Black-owned businesses grew their employment base by more than 50%. Asian Pacific Islander businesses nearly doubled the number of employees. Latino or Latinx-owned businesses grew their number of employees by more than 80%. So again, when we're looking at who are the job creating businesses, who owns the job creating businesses in this country, it's people of color. But yet we know that there's still significant hurdles, right? So while this the incredible growth rate, businesses owned by people of color are still substantially smaller at the median than white-owned businesses are. And the most studied area in this, when we're looking at why that is, most studied area is in bank lending. And we see the disproportionate poor treatment of people of color when they're applying for bank loans here, right? So we see, in terms of just even the information that's being requested, right? White-owned small businesses are asked for tax returns. Half the time, 82% of the time, people of color are asked for tax returns. Financial firm statements, again, similar disparity. Even down to how people are treated when they walk into a bank. 81% or almost 82% of white potential borrowers are offered a business card, and almost 60% are offered help with applying for a loan. And we see a dramatic difference there. But we know that the systemic gaps, the systemic nature of the business performance gap really is broken down into a sort of an M-cubed approach, right, of management skill development, money, and access to markets. And so that's what Ascend is doing, right? So Bill mentioned in my introduction that we're building entrepreneurial support ecosystems in 15 cities across the US that systemically address these issues, all simultaneously. And so to talk more about it, rather than having me go on, we'll hear from Miranda Rodriguez, who's the Deputy Director of LISC, the Local Initiative Support Corporation in Los Angeles. We'll then hear from Karen Lynn Graves, who's the Project Director for the in Arizona for Ascend, and Cirilla Givard, also from Ascend Phoenix. So with that, we're going to want to highlight them on the screen here. So let me see if I can exit and unshare. How do we unshare here? Stop share there. All right, now we can do this. So Miranda, I'm going to go to you first. We're going to drive down I-5 and go to you first. And I'm wondering, again, LISC has been around since 1979, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the need for Ascend in Los Angeles and what's happening with people of color-owned businesses in LA.
Yeah, thanks, Michael, and thanks everyone else for having us here. It's actually somehow we brought the PNW to LA because it is storming and hailing and 50 degrees today, when yesterday we were a cool 75. But, you know, like most places in the country, the need is staggering here. LISC was fortunate enough to administer our regional small business COVID fund last year. And was able to get a lot of up-to-date insights on what our businesses are facing post-COVID. And so for us, like the super majority of the businesses that we serve are micro businesses with 1 to 2 employees, revenues of less than $300,000, and owned by people of color. And for us, that represents about 85% of all the businesses in the neighborhoods that we serve. And so as many of us know, outside of home ownership, entrepreneurship is the primary way that the BIPOC communities build wealth. And so for us, business preservation is essential to ensuring that the current crisis doesn't further exacerbate the racial wealth gap in the region. And of course, we love the 3M model and we know that it works, and not just for B2B businesses that are in supply chains, but also for those on the main street, you know, as well. For our community, wraparound services have been critical for business stabilization to date, and we intend to use the 3M framework to help move businesses from their current kind of survive to thrive stage. And like with most, you know, we know that our businesses have a hard time accessing the right size resources, especially when it comes to capital. And as a field and as a CDFI, we're always trying to find new ways to deploy flexible capital, and that's one of our primary purposes in the market. But this year, we've also realized how really important it is for businesses to be aware of the broader small business ecosystems as a way to access those new market opportunities, to stay abreast of emergency resources, and to generally find support with their peers and the other kind of organizations and business serving organizations that are out there to support them.
Thanks, Miranda. And just if you could really quickly, could you define what a CDFI is?
Yeah, so Community Development Financial Institution is kind of a shadow, I feel like we're like a shadow field, but it's a designation by the US Treasury Department that allows organizations to do lending activities in low to moderate income communities throughout the country. And LISC happens to be the oldest and largest CDFI in the country. So we have 35 offices across the country and cities, and then serve 4,000 rural counties.
Great, thanks, appreciate that, Miranda. Karen, I'm going to jump over to Phoenix now, and not all of us who want to be down at spring training can't be this year, so we're going to hopefully enjoy a little bit of the 70-degree weather that Phoenix has this time of year. But I wonder, could you talk a little bit about sort of the state of people of color-owned businesses in Phoenix, and sort of the need for this 3M money management markets approach?
Absolutely. And first of all, just to let you know, it's 82 degrees here today. Sorry about that, everyone who's not getting the warmth in that part of the country, but we'll send some over to you. Also, and Michael too, before we get started, I just want to say thank you for bringing this importance to, of Ascend to all of us, and also the Seattle Rotary Club for also allowing us to talk. But for us, the 3M model is a little bit different in terms of who we serve. So with our Ascend Phoenix network, and I do have a different header on my background, which is NBEDC, and I'll explain that here in a second. But the reason why it's so important for us is because the clients that we serve generate over $500,000 in revenue. So we service those who are minority, women, veteran, immigrants, and veterans and disabled populations. So we have a lot of different people that we do serve. The services that we provide under money, management, and markets, we also provide wraparound services. So we work with our CDFIs. We work with Chase Bank, who has funded us on this great project. So we work a lot with our wraparound services to ensure that our clients have access to capital, contracts, bonding, procurement opportunities, teaming arrangements, marketing assistance, a whole gamut of services.
From Career Real Estate just reaching out and wanted to share two things with you. One is
I think Jeffrey has his line is
we're seeing homes sell today.
Jeffrey, are you there with us?
No.
Okay, so I'll just kind of continue. So with us, the reason why I have the background is because our grant is oversaw, or our administrator is the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And what they do using the Ascend model is they leverage all the programs under the chamber in order to have those $500,000 businesses become multi-million-dollar businesses. So they utilize the services of NBEDC, and I am the project director for NBEDC, and then I support Saria. She's our project director on Ascend. But we utilize these different services. We also have, the CARES Act funding and the chamber itself and many other programs that the chamber provides to have those different wraparound services. So we do realize the criticalness of money, management, and markets. And what we appreciated about this Ascend model, and looking at Michael Verschow as the expert in all this, the thought process around this was no matter where a business is in their business, it's going to align to one of those three pieces. No matter how you break it down, it's always going to surround money, management, or market. So that is so much to be appreciated. So with that, the Arizona Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, we are right now entering our full second year of this grant. We were very grateful and honored to have received it, for the 2019 to 2020 period. And now we are just moving our clients right along. Even through this pandemic, we still have clients who have been able to thrive, utilizing the wraparound services and the Ascend network. So for that, we're grateful, and that's how we utilize the 3M model. So thank you.
Thanks, Karen, appreciate it. And Cyril, I wondered what you could add to that, please. We only have about another minute or so before we need to go to the next section of the program. But if you could add in add in your thoughts to this.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for inviting me, and thank you, Michael, for inviting me as well. So to kind of add on that to Karen, what we're seeing in Phoenix, Arizona is businesses are doing three things. They're either pivoting, so looking at their services, reevaluating, maybe put new services. Second thing they're doing is reorganizing their business, their operational business as well. And then the last thing is that they're expanding, and not just expanding into like private businesses or the public sector, but expanding into other countries as well. And then, Michael, going back to your chart, one of the biggest hurdles, the barriers we see is access to capital. And that's either pre-COVID or post-COVID. We're still seeing that barrier. And you would think with all the information about PPP is out there, you'd be surprised that businesses don't know what PPP is, how to go about getting it. They don't understand what it's all about and how they can access that particular loan. So as what we're doing as far as that piece of it is to work with our CDFI, which is Pestimo CPLC, so that we can provide financial literacy, that we can show them how to manage their personal and business finances. And that one-on-one technical assistance, that just one-on-one talking, across the table and understand, okay, what is it that you're going through? Because every business is different. Every business have their own issues. And then also working with our CDFI to qualify them for small business capital loans, right? So I think with all of that together, what we're doing is we're helping our businesses so that they can pivot, so that they can reorganize their business, and so that they can start expanding and move away from $500,000 and move and grow into that $1 million, $2 million business.
Great, thank you. So we're going to pull this back up to Seattle, come up the I-5 corridor and get on Alaska Airlines and come on back up from Phoenix and LA. But as we do that, right, I think the point that I'd like to end with, right, is that there's a role that each member of the Seattle Rotary Club can play in this, right? I mean, there's one is join the Business Mentors Committee that that Bill and Terry have been leading, but also as we think about those of us who are in banking, to think about how we can look at our lending practices and look at our underwriting criteria and see ways that we can alter those to make capital more available. Those of us in education think of ways that we can improve the management skill development of people. And those of us who work in corporations or in government that make purchasing decisions, look at our supply chains and look at the diversity in those supply chains and create contracting opportunities for people. As one of our board members at the Consulting Business Development Center reminds me all the time that without a contract, you don't have cash flow. Without cash flow, you can't get a loan. Without a contract, you can't grow your business. So we'd love to be talking with you about that. But with that, I want to thank our speakers. You're welcome to stay with us, please. You might want to put your camera off so you can have a little lunch while you're doing that. But I want to turn it over to my colleague and longtime partner in this work, Will Tootal. Will.
All right, thanks, Michael, and thanks again, Bill, for your introduction earlier. We've had a long-standing relationship, the Foster School and our center specifically with Rotary 4, having Rotarian serve as business mentors for students and clients, as Michael mentioned, for nearly 25 years now. And Bill, during that time, we've had hundreds of Rotarians participate, but both you and your fellow co-chair, Terry Van Nostrand, have been one of the special few that have been with us since the very beginning. So thank you again for your dedication and continued support. We really appreciate you. So with that, I'd like to thank Rotary 4 for letting us be here today. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted small businesses, especially the firms that we've worked with over the last year or so. And so we're going to hear from them. We're going to hear from some of the companies on how they've adapted to this past year. And we're also going to hear how our program has adapted, from a business Rotary mentor's perspective and a student's perspective, so that we can really help firms not only get through these difficult times, but how do we also position them so that they could experience some rapid growth once we hit this new normal. So just to give a quick overview, the Rotary Business Mentors program has teams of students working on consulting projects for companies to help them improve their competitiveness. We focus on helping firms in underserved communities, which means companies owned by people of color, women-owned firms, veteran-owned firms, amongst others. And over the last 25 years, this work has helped generate more than $250 million in new revenues and 250,000 jobs across Washington. So very appreciative of the relationship we have with Rotary 4. This year, the program has 18 firms in it. We have 90 students working with these firms and 66 professional business mentors, 14 of which are members of Rotary 4. And today we're going to hear the stories of 4 individuals who have either participated in the program last year or currently in the program. And with us today, we have, Carolyn, if you wouldn't mind, first slide is on Tanya Jamal. Next slide, please. Thank you. So Tanya Jamal is the president and CEO of Jamal Technical Services. Her professional career has spanned from assisting with engineering projects to developing low-income housing to developing her own construction management and project controls consulting firm. Tanya founded Jamal Technical Services in 1993 and is the sole owner with a staff of 30. They've worked on notable projects through government and public agencies such as Sound Transit, King County, assisting them on construction, capital improvements, and wastewater infrastructure and transportation. The firm also offers its services for public education facilities and low-income housing. So Tanya, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Tanya. So next we have Malcolm Waters. Malcolm is the founder of Ovation Technology, which he created in 2016. Before starting his own business, Malcolm spent more than 15 years as a senior corporate manager. He's worked in the US for Intel, PepsiCo, AOL, HP, Nextel, Midtel, and in Canada for Intel. and his responsibilities included channel management, strategic planning, and revenue growth. He has a meticulous, process-driven approach that has been instrumental in developing both new and expanding enterprises. He is passionate about working in the community, building successful opportunities for his employees, and providing customer service where honesty and integrity are paramount. Malcolm, thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you.
Next is someone who really needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyways. It's Nyasha Tindawani. Nyasha, as we all know, is a member of Rotary 4 and is also a current business mentor for one of our student teams. But in addition to that, he is also the CEO of Real Impact Technology Consulting, a Seattle-based firm that helps businesses and nonprofits adopt and maximize their impact through technology. Nyasha is an avid technologist, passionate about expanding access to technology careers for non-traditional entrants. Through affiliations with Rotary and Women in Cloud, Nyasha has been a mentor working with students and entrepreneurs. He currently serves as a board member for Rotary 4 and the entrepreneur organizational Seattle Accelerator. Nyasha is a Leadership Tomorrow 2011 graduate and is the founder of the Black Channel Partner Alliance, an organization committed to growing Black-owned technology firms and digitally transforming community organizations. Nyasha, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And then finally, we have Arun Solanki. Arun is a junior at the University of Washington studying finance, political economics, and history. Last year, Arun and his student team worked with Jamal Technical Services. And two of his business mentors were Bill Marshall and Terry Van Ostrin. He and his team developed a human capital management strategy for Tanya. And for his outstanding work, Arun received one of our 4 annual Rotary 4 consulting scholarships. Additionally, Arun was a summer analyst at Accenture Strategy, currently serves as president of the UW Consulting Association, and will be joining the Boston Consulting Group as a summer associate in June. He's also the TA for our business consulting class that supports our students through this work in this program. So Arun, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. So this first question I'm going to address to Nyasha. Nyasha, you've been a long time Rotary mentor in this program with more than a decade of service with us. Obviously, we're very grateful for your commitment in advancing student careers, helping companies grow across the region. However, I'm curious why you keep coming back. Can you share with us what you get out of this experience and what motivates you to keep coming back every year?
Perfect. So that's a great question, Will. And it's obviously to spend time with you and Michael. But
Right.
Other than that, it really is the energy of the students, being able to surround myself with fresh ideas. I love watching the way the students work because it's unfiltered, right? So they don't have all these walls and barriers that we develop after years of working in business. It's really funny because I remember the first time I heard about the committee, I was like, well, maybe I should be one of the businesses receiving services, not necessarily a mentor, right? But in engaging, what's been so exciting for me is realizing that, most of these students will not see a business owner that looks like me unless I'm there, right? They don't typically see Black business owners. The other thing is, the brilliance of these students is just mind-blowing. I mean, we had Taylor Shimizu join our club over the last few years. She was one of the students on a project that I worked on. And so, the caliber of the students, the learning, the personal learning, right? So I had a passing interest in setting up a staffing business at some point. And one of the businesses that I mentored was a staffing organization. The CFO came in and broke down that entire business model. So that's the personal learning. The other thing is, part of guiding and looking at how business owners are thinking through things that I've really learned from is when it's so easy to identify a problem in someone else's business that I can then reflect that back into my own business, right? So specifically, I was working with an organization where we were talking about a culture of sales, right? And so I came up with a statement like, you don't have a culture of sales. That's why you're having challenges raising money. And then I turned that back on myself and like, yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing. So that learning piece, and with all the mentors, and you'll get this, it's one of those things where the giving gives you so much back from the business owners, from the student, the things you learn and the relationships that you build, that, you know, I for myself and a lot of the mentors, you wonder which direction that value is going in, because it seems disproportionately coming back towards us. And, you know, this year was the first year I thought about not doing this, because I founded a nonprofit with a few other friends. But, you know, I'm like, it's a 10-week intensive period where I put my attention on. And what's been phenomenal is that I'm going to likely be able to connect the company that we're working with to some opportunities that I've derived because of the nonprofit that I'm a founder on. So it's one of those things that keeps giving back. It gives me the opportunity to see the growth in the businesses and the students from beginning to the end. And so that's why I love it, and that's why I'll keep coming back every single year.
Oh, that's great, Nyasha. It's good to hear that you get so much out of it. And some of the things we don't talk so publicly is how much you can actually bring back to your own firm. So hopefully that was a compelling enough reason for other Rotarians that are in this room who are thinking about jumping in. Jump on in, the water is great. Next question is for Tanya. You've also been a long time partner with us, you know, with a relationship spanning more than 20 years. We've been with you, and your business has, you know, on multiple occasions worked with our center. Give us the state on how your firm is doing, and tell us about your most recent project with us, and how has that helped get you through this pandemic?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm just going to be candid and transparent. The Jamal Technical Service is 27 years old, and we have a very strong client base. But I'm trying to build the efficiency within inside the company. So the challenge that we were facing, the company or I was facing, was keeping our employees and also establishing a human management strategy so that we can be able to involve in a full spectrum of human resources events. But let me tell you, I'm being very honest with you, as my team, as my student team or my consulting team worked with me, we were able to peel back the layers of the onion to find out what's really causing some of the challenges. And one of, we faced three major ones that I recognized. Well, I did not realize it was a problem until the team brought it to my attention. They asked me about what is our culture and what are the company values. Well, I was able to share them, but it just dawned on me, I had not shared that with the home office staff, nor with the rest of the field. I did not know how important culture, understanding the culture, having a uniform family to understand the culture and practice the culture influenced, and these are the challenges I faced. Bad hiring decisions. In other words, we made bad decisions because we did not think in terms of the values and the culture of the company. Also, as we looked into this and analyzed JTS and pulled it apart in another leaf at a time, we realized, or I realized, but the team would not really say it explicitly, that I had staff with skills and abilities, but they were a wrong fit. And that was creating a lot of conflict. It did not improve the efficiency. I fretted a lot, but I started to understand the value of understanding culture and values. And then the other challenge that we realized is a breakdown in communication among the staff, among the field staff and the home office staff. We've recently called them elephants in the room. So we're learning how to address elephants transparently, honestly, with integrity. We found that the COVID added some problems to us because when you communicate, you can't see the expressions through emails. You don't know if you hear that sigh of joy or sigh of sorrow through a telephone. The video conferencing doesn't give you the full body effect to really understand what's going on. So communication is not always verbally. We need to see it as well. And my team was able to help me understand about the breakdown in communications. Now, part of their recommendations that I really like, They allowed me to sit back and see a bigger vision of the company. What does that organizational chart look like 3 to 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How are we going to be able to flex and apply the needs to the staff and to the clients as well? Another point was it helped me see get a better understanding on what a leadership team consists of. Again, it's the word fit is just as important as the skills and ability. And sometimes fit might be more important than skills and abilities, because you can train for skills and abilities, but you can't train for fit. So as it relates to our communications, they made a recommendation, and it's getting hard for us to do it, but some of our areas are really good. How to stay in communication with the staff when we're scattered out over 3 or 4 cities. Video chats, video conferencing like Marco Polo. We can text with one another. We can do Teams. Those are types of video meetings. Having video chats and video staff meetings. Newsletters. Our newsletters have been redirected to start talking about culture and values. Most recently, we had a little contest. If anybody could, for all the staff, they will submit their definition of company culture, please share it. And with the subsequent newsletter, we were able to publish those. And at the same time, I rewarded them with gift cards. Social media, that's going to be a new one for us, because not all of us are experts in the social media. So that's an area that we need to expand on a bit more. Also, for retention of staff, being able to recognize and appreciate and reward for great jobs done well. More kudos, attagals, anything that relates to maybe bonuses, and that was helpful. But I do want to say thank you to COVID for one thing. It allowed me it gave me time to sit back and reflect without staff bothering me. So those are some of the key things that I wanted to share with you as it relates to the problems that we faced and what our team, my team, have been able to recommend for the growth of the company.
Thanks, Tanya, for sharing. It sounds like you've gone through some pretty significant disruption within your culture over the last several months, which is a very daunting undertaking. So I want to wish you luck with the rest of that process. And if and when you're ready for another student team, just let us know. But I was happy to hear that, you know, it sounds like some of your uses in technology have actually been really beneficial for you over the last several months, which is great, because I think this transition into our next speaker, Malcolm Waters from Ovation Technology, because Malcolm, you've got a slightly different story when it comes to this pandemic. I mean, while many industries have been really hit hard, the IT service-based industry has really seen some significant growth and demand. In fact, your company has had some unprecedented opportunities to thrive in the wake of this pandemic. You're currently working with a student team now, and unlike other firms who are trying to just survive, you're looking at ways to manage your growth. So what is it like, and what is this like, and how are you using your student team to make these critical decisions?
First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate you guys including us in the program. The student team is just fantastic. There's really some brilliant minds. I also talked about that earlier. I was very pleasantly surprised with these young folks and how detail oriented they are and the types of questions they ask, which makes me as an owner, you know, oftentimes reflect on the business of questions I hadn't asked myself. And so, you know, it certainly has been a positive experience, but the team has definitely identified some areas and critiques that we can certainly get better at and focus on to help us grow. You know, our main focus is really been on, I guess my charter is, you know, carving out that niche market. You know, where we're not looking at, what opportunities that we could fill, the space that we can fill with our size company and be in that space for a while and grow. You know, the team is helping us with many of our financial analyzing, our books, our margins, what products are successful for us, what products aren't successful for, what things that we may need to remove from our category, or manufacturers alike. As far as the growth that we had, it was certainly unprecedented and very unexpected. We did make some and this is again by just happenstance. I would love to say that I'm so strategic. I saw COVID coming down the road a year before, but that was not the case. And so we made some relationships with some of our bigger manufacturers and got involved in some large contract opportunities. And when COVID hit, we all of a sudden had our doors blown off because we had all these big agencies calling, looking for our services because they were trying to figure out this new world that they were living in with work from home and how they were going to be able to manage that growth. I mean, we literally had agencies that were in their office on Monday and 500, 1,000, 3,000 employees were home Tuesday. And most of them that didn't have the tools they needed to operate, which brought our services into the mix. And that really explains the growth that we've had, and we have some pretty big clients now, and we're managing that with this program is helping us to identify not only managing today, but what other opportunities may exist within that customer base and new customers down the road.
Thanks, Malcolm. I appreciate you sharing that story, and it's good to hear that at least some good news coming out of this pandemic. Thanks for that. So for the interest of time, I've got one more question for our student Arun, and then we're going to open it up to the group. Arun, really excited having you on this panel because we get to hear from a student's perspective on what this whole thing has been like and how this program helps with their professional development. Tell me more about the project that you worked on last year with Tanya, but more importantly, what was it like working with your business mentors? How did they guide you in this project, and how do you think this is going to impact your career moving forward?
Yeah, I think Tanya gave us kind of the blow by blow just a moment ago, but Bill and Terry were great, and I think the number one challenge with consulting is knowing the right questions to ask, right? So we showed up at JTS on day one, and Tanya gives us this question like, fix our culture. And half the employees don't even work in the office. We never get a chance to meet them in person before COVID happens. And the rest of the folks cycle in and out of the office on different days of the week. So it's just such an enormous question. And I think the really powerful thing about the Rotarian mentors is that this group is able to bring so many different folks from so many different backgrounds to bear. So we also have the advisors from Accenture and the financial advisors who come from KeyBank, and I think they're great in that they give you a sort of a subject matter expert perspective on how to do consulting, how to do finance, how to do marketing. But what is really powerful about the Rotarian mentors, and what was really exceptional about Bill and Terry, was that they had a lot of expertise in commercial real estate and the real estate market, and they had experience as leaders, as business leaders, that our other mentors just didn't have. And when you consider being a mentor and helping out with this program, I think that's the really powerful thing that Rotarian mentors have, that you have this enormous diversity in this group that virtually no other business group or business community is going to have.
Great, thanks, Arun. So with that, Ken, I guess I will pass it on to you with questions from the group.
All right, well done. Thank you all for the chat. I'll be interested to see how we have people answer these questions. And there's only a couple, so we've got good time. I've got some myself just as a business owner. What pandemic-related changes to the mentor program do you see continuing? Will, you want to touch on that, or any of the panelists want to touch on that?
Yeah, I guess I could start, but I'd love to hear Nyasha as a Rotary mentor and how this past year is going and getting his perspective. But obviously with the pandemic, there have been a lot of safety measures in place. Everything has been moved online. There's no personal interactions at all between any of our students and our businesses and our mentors. In some ways, we thought this was going to be really challenging for us because, obviously within a 10-week period, it's not a lot of time to build a lot of rapport with your clients let alone ask them personal information about their financing and their business and things of that nature. But I think the caliber of students that we've got and the great mentorship that we're getting from our business owners is really providing the coaching and the skill sets that's needed to still make these projects really successful. In terms of moving forward, one of the things that we've learned from this is technology is the key. I think this is the same for businesses, nonprofit organizations, and it's the same in education as well. And so, some form of use of technology in these programs moving forward is going to be key for us. It's going to be, permanent. What that mix is going to look like, we still need to figure that out. But I'm sure, Nyasha, you've got some benefits that you've learned over the last year and a half or so based on this.
Yeah, so the not having to drive to the UW at 5 in the afternoon and try and get everyone there on time is a good one. I think it'll be a hybrid going forward. Honestly, I mean, there is a lot of value in giving people time back when they're volunteering, and we would be missing a business owner, we'd be missing a student here or there. So I think being able to do some of it virtually matters. The part that I feel for the students is really around the connection. Right, and those moments between the moments at meetings, right, where you can have a deeper conversation or deeper discussion in person, where the tools are great for group discussions, but those individual moments and those individual mentoring moments are something that we're going to have to figure out how to integrate. If it continues like this, hybrid, it'll work out okay.
Okay. What more can Seattle Rotary members do to empower rising leaders? Well, I might start with you and then toss it out to whomever you think.
You as in Will, or you as in me?
No, you as in Will.
Okay.
Okay. So that's a good question, Ken. We got this dual mission within the center, right? Part of it is we want to provide economic development to communities in typically distressed and historically marginalized areas. But on the other side, we want to make sure that we help our students advance their careers after they graduate. So in terms of rising leaders, one of the things that we try to do is put up our, not only do we want to make our companies more competitive once they finish the program, we want to have our students become more competitive after they actually graduate. And so part of what we try to do is work with our clients as they look to implement the recommendations and the strategies that our students develop, use your students to help with the implementation process as well. I mean, we encourage them to hire their students after the projects have completed, because who better to help implement than the ones that have actually helped, create them in the first place. So that's one way where we try to provide some advancement in student careers. And we hope that this moves on to when they become alumni and they start, growing their professional skill sets, building out their networks, and continuing to be successful after they graduate. And the great thing is, once they graduate, they've got this huge network that they can draw from. So not only do they have the business community through their clients that they've worked with, but also the mentors and advisors that have been sort of coaching them throughout the years. And we try to work with our students to maintain those relationships, build them out, and really use them to advance. Malcolm, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Just basically, in terms of now that your company is experiencing all this growth, you're going to have to bring in a lot of good leaders and team members and things like that. What is that process like for you? And have you considered the type of folks that you're trying to bring in into large leadership positions?
Technology, obviously, everyone sort of have their expertise and their capabilities, and that really helps us identify what that skill set or what that person looks like. As far as managing the growth in itself, it's difficult. It's a challenge because there's so many moving parts and understanding, getting that right characteristics. It's something funny that Tanya talked about earlier. And she's talked about culture. We've gone through that same experience, and I always assume that I'm a great communicator with my team, and I always talk about my vision and where I see this company going collaboratively. But when you start getting emails from after interacting with your team, employees saying, "What is our culture?" And it just blew my mind because I thought that was very clear. And so I too had to realize that I need to pull everyone together, and we talk about, you know, where we're headed and what our mission is, and what additional team members we need, and to achieve some of these bigger goals that we're going after.
And well, if I have a minute on that, so every Rotarian can mentor someone, right? So that's a student, that's a young business owner, that is someone that's in that category. If you you know, so I look at the Rotary Continuum. I joined as a young Rotary leader, and so by having that network around me that really fulfilled, you know, my growth over time, we have a phenomenal network and great expertise in the club. So I think us embracing younger leaders and bringing them in, and then giving them opportunities to lead and run some of the committees that we have, is something that Rotary could do.
Yeah, well said there. Well said there. And Tanya, I think you wanted to add to that point as well.
I want to add a little bit more, talking about the growth for our future leaders, really, and great members of the Rotarian group organization. Sometimes we get wrapped up in doing our day-to-day mechanics of our jobs, the left and the right and up and down, and left and right and up and down, and we forget about our passion. We need to emphasize a lot about when you have your passion, that starts and ignites your drive. When you ignite your drive, you seek excellence. If we can find the roots and the foundation of why we are involved in organizations and why we're involved in the careers that we have chosen, it should boil down to passion. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I forgot my passion. I was just worried about the problems.
Right.
I'm loving this. I hate to cut it off. We could do this for a long time. So I'm so appreciative to hear this conversation today. And for everybody that was involved, we appreciate your time, your input, and your wisdom. Thank you so much.